It's time to put the good in your morning. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, a 12-year-old makes the finals of a mullet competition.
Freezing rain, drizzle, and snow on its way to the 4 states with a winter weather advisory. We're going to break down how long we're going to have to put up with this from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And we check in with a few 4-state residents who've created their own candy chute to help keep kids safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 starts now. Thanks for joining us on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Some local road crews are hard at work this morning as some roads throughout the 4 states became slick with ice overnight. KDOT crews got things prepped early yesterday. KDOT uses a brine to help de-ice the roads, but if rain is expected, that's when they will use rock salt since it lasts longer. Once the rain is done, they'll lay down more salt. Officials say they're prepared for when things become dangerous.
We're usually, when we know something's coming, we'll come out and we'll go ahead and put down some rock salt, which lasts a little bit longer.
Superintendent Nelson says one way to tell if a road is icy, if the road looks wet, but cars in front of you are not splashing water from their tires. There's your sign. Well, Kansas wasn't the only state preparing for icy conditions, as crews in Missouri also treated their icy roads. MoDOT's biggest piece of advice during the icy conditions: stay off them if you can. Officials say if you do travel, make sure to check road conditions and give yourself plenty of time.
Because this is the first storm, really, one of the first storms of the season, and if we have ice, it could be black ice, it could be any kind of like that, where you just don't see it until you're on it. If it's raining and they're calling for freezing rain, which they are in a lot of locations in the northern areas, you need to slow down, just take it real easy.
It's also recommended to make sure your car is ready for the cold temperatures by checking your antifreeze levels, batteries, tires, and brakes. Oklahoma gets severe weather of their own, and parts of Oklahoma City is hit with heavy rain Monday night. Further north and to the west, it was freezing rain. Much of the northeast of Oklahoma will remain in effect until noon today, that winter weather advisory. Well, the Missouri Highway Patrol Troop D reports its 6th boating fatality this year, and they say the victim was an Arma, Kansas man, Chad Boswell. Highway Patrol says Boswell was on a boat on the Osage River that hit an object in the water. The boat filled with water and flipped. That's when Boswell drowned. The other people on the boat, including a 5-year-old girl and 2 of his sons, survived. A Joplin man is sentenced for burglary. Authorities say 39-year-old Jericho Jones was caught by the Newton County Sheriff's Office burglarizing a home, and Jones is sentenced to 10 years in prison. Chanute, Kansas police arrest a man after he opened fire on a local business. It happened early Friday. Police say the suspect was showing off a gun that he had tucked inside his waistband at a business on South Santa Fe. Authorities say he was asked to leave, but came back later and fired at the business. No one was shot. Police arrested the suspect, but no formal charges have been filed. Voters are coming out in record numbers a full week before Election Day. In Jasper County, they received more than 3,000 mail-in absentee ballots. More than 4,000 people have voted absentee in person. And in Crawford County, there's been more than 3,000 mail-in ballots cast, with around 500 people voting in person. Officials in both counties expect to far surpass the voter turnout of the 2016 presidential election. Now, a quick correction to a story we brought you yesterday morning. In our story on mail-in voting, we said Kansas voters could mail in ballots up to 3 days after the election, as long as it's postmarked by Election Day. Now, to clarify that, your ballot must be postmarked before or on Election Day, November 3rd, meaning it must be mailed before or on Election Day. Your vote will still be counted if it's received by November 6th, which is 3 days after the election. Well, just because he's not wearing aviators, listening to Kid Rock, or old enough to drink an ice-cold Bud Light, doesn't mean this 12-year-old Illinois boy can't have a sweet hairdo. Nope. In fact, Noah Smith's mullet is so rockin' he's entered himself in a competition for the best kid's mullet in the entire country. Check this one out. Competition boasts a $500 grand prize, and after some encouragement from his mom, 12-year-old now finds himself in the finals. His do has been dubbed the Freedom Flapper in his community. Like his hair is behind him.
Who knew?
The Freedom Flapper.
Who
and I
knew?
love that he's got his community support behind him too. That's awesome.
Okay. Things that you didn't know existed in
You
your
know,
life.
that's one thing in 2020 that I never thought I'd see more of.
National Kid Mullet Contest.
Just mullets in general.
I got
love
nothing.
them.
I got
Love them.
nothing.
Those curly mullets,
Got nothing to add for
they
you.
take me back to high school.
But back
You
in
go,
my
kid.
day, we used to get out the dog clippers and just didn't even have to go to the barber. Just took care of it.
Business in the front, party in the back.
That's right. All right, Tanya, we're starting to creep in here from the south and the west. We don't have a lot of action, but I want everybody to know that what is down here with the light freezing drizzle, the freezing rain, the snow, it is moving our way. Picking up a little bit of rain there down to the south. Now, really everything south and along and south of I-44 is going to stay as rain. It's going to be similar in nature to what we had yesterday with the freezing rain making kind of a diagonal line right there. And then you're going to have to get up into the northwestern portion to really get to the snow accumulation. Winter weather advisory, though, look at this thing. It lasts all the way until the noon hour. And then as Tanya was saying, they got a mess down there through Oklahoma where they've got an ice storm warning. Ice storm warning. But that gives you an indicator as everything pushes our way, it's going to show up in the form of with that freezing rain. Freeman Health System sky camera right now, 32 degrees is where we've stood all morning long with a wind chill, down to 23. It's 31 in Pittsburgh, 32 in Monette, and 30 in Neodesha. So key factor for the bus stop forecast is just making sure that they stay warm, because we're not going to have much of a bump up on the old thermometer as the jet stream doesn't want to help us. It's been very stagnant in the same place that it was yesterday. So for our day planner, mid-30s about as good as we're going to get, and with that freezing rain sticking around into the afternoon. Now what we have on future track as it pushes from southwest up to the northeast right there, like I said, into the afternoon, early evening hours. Then we see a complete shift as far as where everything comes from. Starts to work due south, north. Well, that's a good thing for tomorrow, because our temperatures finally get above the freezing point. So while certainly going to get a fair amount of rain on Wednesday, at least we can keep it just as rain and not have to worry about the freezing variety. Tanya?
Up next, NASA finds water on the moon. And we let you weigh in on Amy Coney Barrett's Supreme Court nomination for our Something to Talk About. Be sure to check that out. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Researchers find that ultrasounds give a better indication of which COVID-19 patients have a higher risk of dying. The scans gave doctors an indication of which patients had the highest risk for death, and researchers found it gave a fuller picture than the routinely run blood tests to look for heart damage. They say these ultrasounds could help doctors start treatment early and help patients recover better. A new report offers promising news about a vaccine to battle the coronavirus. The Financial Times says a COVID-19 vaccine was found to trigger an immune response in older adults, the group at highest risk for contracting the virus. Researchers say the vaccine produces protective antibodies and T cells in the elderly, but warns the tests do not guarantee the vaccine will ultimately prove safe and effective. The findings reflect data released in July, which showed the vaccine generated robust immune responses in a group of healthy adults between the ages of 18 and 55. A new international study shows the impact the coronavirus can have on the heart. Chris Martinez has more.
Jihan Mikhail spent a month in the hospital battling severe COVID-19. She has underlying conditions and was intubated for 10 days.
That minute I called my husband and I told him, I'm going. Please take care of yourself. I'm leaving. Don't worry.
7 months later, she's still struggling. The 47-year-old's heart is not pumping well because it was damaged by the coronavirus. She has trouble breathing.
My muscle and my heart very weak.
A large international study led by Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai is helping doctors better understand COVID-19's impact on the heart. Researchers looked at the heart ultrasounds of more than 300 hospitalized COVID-19 patients. They found 2/3 had heart abnormalities, and those patients had a higher risk of death.
We tend to think it's more an inflammatory response against the virus, which is affecting the heart, rather the direct attack of the virus into the heart.
Doctors say these heart injuries can be associated with heart attack, pulmonary embolism, and heart failure. Study author Dr. Martin Goldman says the ultrasounds may be an important tool to identify high-risk patients who may benefit from more aggressive and tailored treatment.
We're learning every day something new. We think we need to continue investigating what the long-term effects are on all the organ systems, including the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the lung.
Mikhail sleeps with oxygen and gets tired easily, but her scans show she's improving.
The muscle of the heart is getting stronger. It's kind of scary to me. I'm very frustrated.
She's taking her medications as prescribed, trying to heal from this ordeal. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Doctors say patients with existing cardiac risk factors such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and obesity should try and manage the conditions now because it could help prevent heart complications related to COVID-19. NASA confirms there is water below the surface of the moon that's exposed by the sun. The agency announced the discovery on Monday, saying it was made using its SOFIA telescope. It observed the moon in mid-flight from a modified Boeing 747 jet. But the amount of water is just a fraction of what you would find in the Sahara Desert. That's not much. In a separate study, NASA said there could be more water than previously believed in tiny lunar ice patches that are permanently protected from the sun. Interesting. Gotta dig deep.
I like the comparison there. It's less than what you find in the Sahara.
Yeah, I don't think you could survive long in the Sahara.
Well, despite the fact that we were so dry for the past couple of months, so we're picking it up. I wish it would just stay as rain, but nope. This is going to come in the freezing variety right there. Freezing drizzle indicated in the pink. We've got freezing rain on the top of that. We've got snow that's headed our way. Everything working from the southwest up through the northeast. That's why we're kind of concentrating on this area down here. We do have one storm report that's already come out of I-49 near Carthage. Slick spots developing on overpasses. Let's also plan on that happening as Highway 69 as well. So far, haven't had any reports come out of I-44. Even with that being said, let's go ahead and plan on it being a little bit treacherous. I want you to be on the safe side. Give yourself plenty of extra time. I'll tell you what, the great thing I love about live television is that little development here. As far as our winter weather advisories go, you'll notice if you were with us earlier, we were pretty much all purple throughout the 4 states. And so let's see if they've changed our timing on this at all. Now, we're still going to roll those till noon. All those counties in purple, but excuse me, I guess a little bit of relief in the fact that we were able to lift it right along the state line and pretty much all of southwest Missouri right there. We were able to take them out of the winter weather advisory. So, even with that being said, still want everybody to be careful. Don't let down your guard now. But it also shows you that this will be the area that we concentrate on when it comes to possible ice accumulation indicated there in the pink and your snow accumulation up in the far northwestern part. But that kind of makes sense why they lifted it through southwest Missouri, because we really don't see it penetrating too much across the Kansas-Missouri state line. 32 degrees from the Freeman Health System sky camera. Been a chilly one all morning long. Going to be a chilly day as our temperatures are hovering right at that freezing mark for the most part. So really just a key factor for the bus stop forecast. Find a way to keep them warm, because our wind chills right now have dropped down into the low 20s. Actually have had a couple teens earlier in the morning. Skywatch Storm Tracker shows that cold air, that jet stream just hasn't budged on us. Now, the big change is going to be for late tonight. After we get through our freezing rain, which would be about mid-afternoon, then we're going to transition into straight rain, because everything's going to lift from south to north. And so that's a good thing right there. It's going to be a wet Wednesday. We'll take it, though, because we're not going to have to worry about the freezing variety tomorrow. Just be safe. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Today, Amy Coney Barrett's first full day of work as a justice on the Supreme Court of the United States. She joins the court with just a week to go until Election Day. Nancy Chen has the story from Capitol Hill.
Amy Coney Barrett is now a Supreme Court justice.
I, Amy Coney Barrett.
The 48-year-old was sworn in last night during a ceremony at the White House.
It is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences. It would be a dereliction of duty for her to give in to them.
Barrett is the third associate justice appointed by President Trump.
Our country owes a great debt of thanks to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. We appreciate it very much, Mitch. Thank you.
The Republican-led Senate approved Barrett over unanimous opposition from Democrats. She replaces the liberal icon, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died last month.
Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, and their Republican buddies are shoving aside the wishes of the American people in order to steal the Supreme Court seat.
Justice Barrett will take the judicial oath of office later today and is expected to begin working immediately. No justice has ever joined the Supreme Court so close to a presidential election. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden continues to face questions about how he would handle a Supreme Court with a 6-3 conservative advantage. During a campaign appearance in Pennsylvania, Biden rejected the idea of term limits for justices.
It's a lifetime appointment. I'm not going to attempt to change that at all.
Activists have called on Biden to pack the court by adding more seats to the bench and filling them with progressive judges. Biden says if elected, he will appoint a commission to study the workings of the nation's top courts. Nancy Chen, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
During the confirmation hearing, Justice Barrett said she would not commit to recusing herself from any election-related cases that may come before the court. Are something to talk about, not only on the KOAM News Now Facebook page, but also our morning Instapoll. How you feel about Judge Barrett's confirmation? And Wade Stevens says she will be an asset to the Supreme Court. Was glad to see, too, someone that will uphold the Constitution as written. Cliff Sinclair says, simple answer, the Dems will add at least 4 justices to the stand. That their way, there won't be incentive for a party to go along with a crooked president as long as they get their appointments to court. And Jerry Michelle Middleton said they did what the Constitution allowed and had been done multiple times in our history. They simply did their job, which they have mostly avoided doing this whole administration. Now, as far as the results on the KOAM News Now Instapoll go, 76% saying you support the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. It's really been about between 80 and 75% all morning long. You can partake. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back right after this.
As Halloween quickly approaches, trick-or-treating may look a little different for some people, and one Miami resident is making sure she can hand out candy in the safest way possible. KOAM's Caitlin Shive has more.
Trick-or-treating is all about the candy, but with new CDC recommendations due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many people are finding more creative ways to distribute it, like Miami resident Angel Riggs Austin.
We want to still have fun with Halloween and be safe, so we decided let's get that candy out there however we can.
She and her family decided to create a candy chute to ensure social distancing.
My daughter likes to hand out the candy, so you kind of have to throw it through to get the momentum. So she'll be throwing it through and hopefully we'll have some trick-or-treaters.
Something she's hoping will be fun for the trick-or-treaters and will help reduce the chance of spreading the COVID-19 virus.
I really don't want anyone else to get it if possible, so that's our big main factor there.
The Miami Police Department are expecting to see an increase in trick-or-treaters this year.
And normally our chamber-sponsored event, the Sweet Streets event, would have 3,000 kids right there on Main Street, and a lot of games, a lot of vendors come out and they play games, have different candy stops, and it was just a huge event for the city. And without that, kids will still want to celebrate Halloween, and I think we're going to see more kids out and about on the streets.
And are advising parents to keep an eye out and to have a safe Halloween.
We just try to be as social distancing conscious as possible. And I know I've seen several people that have created shoots or doing different things to try to social distance and to wear gloves. And we encourage parents to take hand sanitizer with them so they can sanitize between houses or periodically through the evening.
In Miami, Caitlin Shive, KOAM News.
Miami Police Department is also asking for caution when it comes to wearing cloth masks under Halloween mask, as it could make it difficult to breathe. It's time now to honor today's four-state hero. Will Carter, a corporal in the United States Marines. He served in January of 2002 in Iraq, Baghdad, and in Fallujah. Native of Joplin, Missouri, we salute you, Will Carter, our four-state hero. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:29. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Some local road crews are hard at work this morning as some roads throughout the 4 states became slick with ice overnight. KDOT crews got things prepped early yesterday. KDOT uses a brine to help de-ice the roads, but if rain is expected, they will use rock salt since it lasts longer. Then once the rain is done, they will lay down more salt. Officials say they are prepared for when things become dangerous. Kansas was the only state preparing for icy conditions as crews in Missouri also treated their icy roads. MoDOT's biggest piece of advice during the icy conditions: stay off the roads if you can. Officials say if you do travel, make sure to check road conditions and give yourself plenty of time. Missouri Highway Patrol Troop D reports its 6th boating fatality this year. They say the victim was an Arma, Kansas man, Chad Boswell. Highway Patrol says Boswell was on a boat in the Osage River that hit an object in the water. The boat filled with water and flipped, and Boswell drowned. The other people on the boat, including a 5-year-old girl and 2 of his sons, survived. Voters are coming out in record numbers a full week before Election Day. In Jasper County, they've received more than 3,000 mail-in absentee ballots. More than 4,000 people have voted absentee in person. And in Crawford County, there's been more than 3,000 mail-in ballots cast, with around 500 people voting in person. Officials in both counties expect to far surpass the voter turnout of the 2016 presidential election. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards issued an emergency declaration on Monday ahead of the forecasted arrival of Zeta. Now, this storm is the 27th named storm of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. Louisiana is still recovering from 2 other storms, Laura and Delta. Zeta is forecast to be a Category 1 hurricane by the time it reaches Louisiana.
We'll check into the Zeta in just a second. Got some developments here that I want to talk about in the 4 states. There's a freezing drizzle picking up right now outside the mothership. Here's our development, and what we're seeing is there you go. Here's our latest development is we've got the winter weather advisory that has been lifted for southwest Missouri. So that's a great thing. Now, it still exists for most of southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma right there. But like I said, at least it's a positive aspect that we can talk about as far as the winter weather that we're seeing that has now begun to creep its way into our highlighted counties. That's the freezing drizzle. As I mentioned earlier, we've got the freezing mist outside on top of the freezing rain and then the snow, and everything's going to move in from the southwest. So I put the storm tracks on there to give you an idea of how this is going to track our way. That one storm report, that's from earlier this morning. Slick spots already on the overpasses of I-49. Let's go ahead and anticipate 49 and 69 as you work north. That's where you're going to run into some trouble areas. Or if you take 44, but you almost got to get south of Tulsa as far as your problem areas on 44. Our neck of the woods from, say Miami through Joplin and then headed toward Mount Vernon, we're not looking too bad ice-wise. If we fast forward about 12 hours, this is where we're looking at the ice accumulation. But once again, that's going to be on 160 and Highway 400, probably for the afternoon and evening commute. So I want you to be apprised of that. And then the gray is where we're looking at anywhere from a dusting to 1/10 of an inch of snow. It looks like the heavier snow will actually be on the north side of Wichita, tracking off to the west right there. Looks like they got a little mist there at the Freeman Health System sky camera as well. 32 degrees. The old thermometer has not budged all morning long as we're sitting right at, if not just a touch below, the freezing mark. As far as the bus stop forecast goes, like I said, we know it's coming, so just try to keep them warm because the temperature's not going to go anywhere, and our wind chills right now sit in the low 20s. Now, we were talking about Zeta. Well, here it is over the Yucatan Peninsula. Tropical storm, but will intensify with hurricane warnings along the Gulf Coast, expected to be there by the time we get to the weekend. By the time we get to the weekend, we'll get out of freezing mode, but it's just going to be another cold Tuesday. Here's what Future Track has. Once again, southwest to northeast movement until it finally flips over to pure rain this afternoon and evening. The rain continues on Wednesday, but the nice thing is we get out of the danger zone and into the 50s, and we can just keep our precipitation simply as rain. Still looking at a nice Halloween. Should be a mild day, partly sunny skies, and a nice night for the kiddos. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
With winter comes the holidays, and with the holidays comes travel, and for some of you, a lot of it. But just because you're traveling doesn't mean You can't have some fun while doing it, all while being smart and safe when it comes to COVID-19. Wendy Gillette shows us some tips if you plan to take a road trip for any of the upcoming winter holidays.
Driving has been the preferred mode of transportation for vacations during the pandemic, according to travel surveys.
That's because road trips provide a lot of flexibility, and especially this time around, comfort. You're in your own vehicle, you're among your family, you're among your friends.
But once you leave the bubble of the inside of your car, there are safety steps you can take to limit your potential exposure to the coronavirus. First off, gassing up. Dr. William Greeno, an expert in infectious disease at Johns Hopkins University, describes how he keeps himself safe at gas stations.
I have a Clorox spray. I have wipes in alcohol, 76% alcohol. Computer punch in, I wipe that down. I wipe down the gas handle.
And that goes for any surfaces inside rest areas or restaurants. If you want to minimize stops, bring your own food.
It's packing more food and supplies for your full trip.
AAA offers a couple resources to help plan your trip. A COVID-19 travel restriction map shows which areas around the country are experiencing spikes and where there are travel restrictions. Trip Tips allows you to chart your route, even picking rest areas and where to eat, so you have more time to concentrate on the scenery. Wendy Gillette, CBS News, Sanford, Maine.
Well, if you haven't been driving much lately because you've been close to home, AAA recommends checking all of your car's fluid levels and tires before you head out on a long trip. Always a good idea. Well, fewer new homes were sold in September. The Commerce Department says sales declined 3.5% after 4 months of gains. Economists were expecting an increase. Still, new home sales are much stronger than a year ago, up more than 32%. Like most of the economy, the housing market came to a near standstill in March and in April, putting the typical spring-summer buying season on hold until the summer. Ross Stores says this month it opened 30 Ross Dress for Less and 9 DD discount stores in 17 states. Ross was planning to add 66 new stores this year, and it says the recent new locations complete the plan. There are 12 new stores in its largest markets, California, Texas, and Florida. The company is now in 40 states and is the largest off-price apparel and home fashion chain in the U.S. Ross closed most of its locations from mid-March through mid-May, and executives say after reopening, demand was stronger than expected. They do have great deals. We'll be right back.
About 11 minutes till the top of the hour here. Big development that we've had this morning, and from a positive aspect, is we've been able to remove southwest Missouri and bordering counties throughout southeast Kansas from the winter weather advisory. That being said, they still exist for the majority of southeast Kansas and our counties in northeast Oklahoma, all the way until the noon hour. Let's take a look at how it's creeping in from the southwest as we got freezing mist outside the mothership. Now we've got freezing drizzle making its way headed toward Independence, already through Sedan, and then the purple indicating freezing rain, and of course the bluish more snow than anything else. And here it is, all working in from the southwest, a combo of all three. So while we actually started off a little slow compared to yesterday, it is going to be one of those days where we need to pay attention because we've already picked up storm reports of areas of elevation, whether it be bridges or overpasses, that can be a little treacherous when you're driving. We don't want any slip and slide on 69 or 49. Now, I-44 looks to be pretty good, especially when you get down to the south. That should stay as rain pretty much all day long. Our pink area indicating about 12 hours from now where we're going to see the ice accumulation, and then up here more so to the snow in the far northwestern portion of the 4 states. Freeman Health System Sky Camera is going to stick around all day long because our temperature is going to be right at freezing. Going to be hard pressed to escape that. Just want everybody to be on guard. We got to get through one more day, and it's going to last all the way through the afternoon hours. Now, by the time we get to tonight into Wednesday morning, then we'll see it transition and work in from the south. That's going to bring us, number 1, warmer temperatures. Number 2, means we get to keep everything as rain for the middle of the week. Now, let's catch up with Jesse Irwin again, who had the chance to sit down and talk to U.S. Senator James Lankford out of Oklahoma.
When it comes to the election, I mean, what is your degree of confidence in the election process this year? We have more mail-in ballots than ever before in history when it comes to any election, especially presidential. So do you feel confident in the process?
I'm most confident with Oklahoma's election system because that's the one I'm most familiar with. We have a very secure election system. I have voted absentee before by mail because I travel obviously quite a bit and I'm not always there, especially on primary days and such. We're often in Washington, D.C. on those days. And so I do vote by mail, and that's been a very good system. It's been very reliable, and I encourage people to do that. Now, the deadline's coming very soon for that. If you're going to request an absentee ballot, you have to have that request in by the 27th of October, and it has to actually be returned before the end of Election Day. So if people are going to vote by mail, you need to hurry on that because it's got to be returned and in hand by the end of the day on Election Day. There's also in-person voting on the weekend before the election that you can do in every single county, and then obviously at your precinct on Election Day itself. We've made a lot of changes since 2016 in working on additional security protocols and additional assistance, and also watching out for interference. We saw that even this week with the FBI and the Director of National Intelligence saying we picked up interference from a group of Iranians that are trying to interfere in our election, putting these fake emails out saying they're the Proud Boys and trying to intimidate voters. Immediately, FBI stepped out, exposed that for what it was, and then put sanctions within 48 hours on this group of Iranians as well, and they've taken aggressive action to be able to push back. That's exactly the way it should have been handled in 2016. That's the way it is being handled now, that whether they're trying to attack our voting system or trying to interfere in our election, Americans have our own arguments and discussions. We should not have foreigners try to engage with us to influence us in this.
Gotcha. So it sounds like, in terms of limiting foreign interference, you feel the federal government's doing everything that it needs to in order for this to be a true election, both, with in-person voting, mail-in voting, however you're getting your ballot in, it's going to be a fair process.
It is. It looks to be a very good process. The challenge has been out there. The president's talked a lot about mail-in ballots, and this is not new on mail-in ballots. People make more mistakes when they actually do a mail-in ballot. And we've just seen that over time. Up to 20% in previous elections of mail-in ballots have had to be kicked out because the voter themselves actually made a mistake with it. They didn't sign it. In some states, it requires a signature. They didn't actually put a signature, or they didn't put it in the correct envelope, or they didn't get it in time back to the election authorities. There's lots of ways that people can make mistakes with that. In Oklahoma law, you either have to have it notarized or show some form of ID. This year, because of the pandemic, you can just make a copy of your voter card or a copy of your ID and include that. If you don't include that, that's not a valid vote. And so people make mistakes with mail-in voting, and that's the bigger problem. If you want to make sure it's there, do in-person voting, then you'll know.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Justice Amy Coney Barrett will take the judicial oath in a private ceremony today at the Supreme Court. Last night, the Senate confirmed her to become an Associate Justice of the nation's highest court, and she took the constitutional oath at a White House event. U.S. government officials have ended testing on an Eli Lilly antibody drug for people hospitalized with COVID-19 because it does not seem to be effective. President Trump received a similar drug when he was hospitalized with coronavirus earlier this month. And Hurricane Zeta is churning in the Gulf of Mexico after lashing Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula with high winds and rain. Forecasters predict the 27th named storm of the Atlantic season will likely weaken before it reaches the U.S. tomorrow. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Weather advisory for southeast Kansas all the way to the noon hour. Put future track in motion, and there we go. Give you an idea how it doesn't taper off really till the afternoon hours. Just be very careful out there on the roads. This is day 2 of going through this, but now look at what happens overnight. At least we're just going to get rain on Wednesday. It's going to stay as rain. Get some thunder and lightning in Wednesday as well. And cool as we head toward Halloween. Able to get up to the 60s though, just in time for the kids to do some trick-or-treat.
Well, the Palm Fountain in Dubai wins the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest fountain in the world. It spans over 14,000 square feet and shoots water over 100 meters high. The fountain, LED light and music displays start at sunset and last until midnight. That is so cool. It'd be a sight to see. Dubai is one of my bucket list locations.
I want to drop the old line from a certain satellite TV provider. Opulence.
All right, all right. Opulence.
That's what I got.
That's what I got.
All right.
I guess it's time to head out.
Gotta get ready for noon.
All right, well, thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning.
Back with more news, winter weather updates when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.